a knight that follows the golden medal, a stoner magician, a feisty green-haired huntress, and a rogue warlock walk into a castle. Now this sounds like a setup for a really shitty joke, but instead it's the character lineup for a great old school metal based JRPG called Metal as Fuck. Wasn't that a mouthful? Now I recently completed a full playthrough of Metal as Fuck on Twitch, link in the description, which I could have recorded and posted, but I feel like that would have spoiled the experience for people who haven't touched the game yet. So I posted a review on Steam, but still didn't think this was enough. So that review became this draft for this video, so buckle up buddy, we've got some ground to cover. To start off, I'll hit you at the Cliff Notes version. Metal as Fuck is the first game developed and published by Crankage Games. It's similar to the old Final Fantasy games with a heavy emphasis on comedy, and you don't want to put a Luger in your mouth because of filler enemies every 10 seconds. The comedy is created through character interactions and the world making around them, making them the core reason to play the game. Unlike certain AAA games, people try to defend with that argument. The combat is your basic turn-based strategy with a clean art style that'll stop the need for nostalgia glasses 3 or 5 years down the line, and you'll never feel like bashing your head against a brick fucking wall to make progress. The soundtrack that plays as you progress through each area perfectly matches the tone of the scene, whether you're in an intense boss fight or wandering the woods. This game has the fair dinkum seal of approval. It's a solid 8 out of 10, and it's only going to cost you $5 or $15 if you buy his complete bundle of games. Now that was the review for those with the attention span of a fucking goldfish. Now let's get into the details. I've never delved into the JRPG genre. The closest I ever did was Pokemon, and that one time I played Final Fantasy VIII for 2 hours, but I got fucking sick of all the bullshit in it, so that'll be our comparison. My biggest problem with the Final Fantasy VIII game, besides the boring as fuck characters, was that I felt like every 10 steps I had another enemy encounter. This quickly became tedious and frustrating, causing me to dread exploration, destroyed my video game kleptomania, so that motherfucker's not nailed down, I'm stealing it. Metal as Fuck solves this problem one very simple way. It doesn't have enemies spawn on the overworld, so you can take your time and explore the areas for every single secret, character interaction, or piece of loot without tedious gameplay loops. But if you want to get your grind on, there's plenty of enemy random spawns in dungeon areas which you have to go through to fight a boss and progress. Now, exploration is not only rewarded with XP and items found in chests, but also through character interactions found through hitting the action key on objects and certain items being found in chests, but I won't spoil that for you. Now before we go dick first into the dungeons, I'd dare to give you a taste of the quest. The first side quest you can stumble across is to retrieve a one-of-a-kind cane for a young lady. This cane was stolen by a goblin who then jumped down a well. It turns out in this well is an entire military outpost for you to explore until you finally face the goblin, which is an homage to that creepy little fucker from Lord of the Rings. You know the one? He keeps saying, "My precious." He'll probably suck dick for meth. Well, it's his coke-addicted cousin. And it turns out you're retrieving a cane full of cocaine, which you get as a reward, and $25, plus this conversation. Now I chose to do a few enemy encounters per dungeon, around 3 or 6, and I did a tactical retreat from the rest. It was tactical, I swear. I didn't want to waste magic points. I didn't feel underpowered or overpowered at any point. With every boss or enemy encounter, I felt like if I didn't think my attacks through or monitor my character's resources, I would die and have to start from my next save. And that's a hard balance to get, because it allows for those who don't like to grind to enjoy the game, and for those who love to grind a reason to do so, such as the most powerful gear in the game. Sorry for my stutter, but apparently I'm having a stroke. In case you're not watching the video, I better touch on the art style. When exploring the map and meeting characters, it's a clean and detailed 16-bit art style, with high quality anime style character portraits used in combat and conversation. Over the entirety of the game, only 2 or 3 of these portraits are reused for NPCs, and unless you're looking for these little details, you probably won't notice it. The only time the visual design isn't great is with enemy encounters. Most of the enemy models looks like they're assets from PS2 games, but they're serviceable and don't affect the overall experience of the game. There's even some fun references with them, like the Eye of the Beholder from Dungeons & Dragons, and Beauty and the Beast style living objects that attack you. Since it doesn't affect the overall experience of the game, I'm not going to take any points away from this. Now on to the merry band of fighters I introduced at the start. Our main character, Chael, is how I pronounce it because I don't know how to pronounce it properly, is a paladin of the metal god called Fuck. And as is said at the start of the game, all paladins aspire to be as metal as fuck. He acts as a talking head for exposition and the straight man when it comes to comedy. If you don't know what a straight man funny man routine is, look at Rick and Morty. Morty acts as the straight man. He reacts in a way that any of us would and acts as the comedic grounding. And he's offset by Rick's narcissism, arrogance and absurdity. That sums up the dynamic of Chael and what he has with other characters like Pontius. Now Pontius is the stoner magician I mentioned earlier. Now he has a pretty big ego, but his ability to take drugs is even bigger. He can be basically summed up as a sarcastic stone magician with a fondness for surprises. The next person we meet is Alexandria, the world's worst tracker, and I use quotation marks there, with a quick temper is a magnet for getting hit on. I mean, it's so frequent, even demons want to smell her hair. What is it if people want to bang green-haired characters? Well, besides that, her outbursts are hilarious. There's a Russian NPC she tries to fight later on for being extremely rude, and it's a great piece of dialogue. Now our rogue warlock is Treclin. He joins our party pretty late in the game, I'd say probably in the last third of it. But before you even get to his first boss fight, he's already getting along with Pontius and Alexandria, mostly because of his extreme drug use, and he completely shocks Alexandria during the first encounter. His main philosophy can be summed up as, fucked if I do, fucked if I don't, might as well go out on a high note. Overall, these characters blend extremely well together, and their banter reflects off each other. It was so flawed, it reminded me of the many times I speak shit with my mates while playing video games. For this, I have to commend Crankage Games on his work with writing the dialogue. Alright, I'd better get to my overall thoughts. Mechanically, this game plays perfectly fine. Its user interface could be used some work, but as I said before, this is his first game. He was self-taught, and just like its PS2 assets, it's serviceable without grossly affecting the gameplay. Once you learn the system, that is, of course. The gameplay comes secondary to the characters, and he's picked the perfect genre for this design attitude. These types of role-playing games are generally pretty basic, and you can slap as many gimmicks as possible into them. But unless you're a hardcore player, you need more substance to keep wanting to play this game, which is why I've never delved into this genre until now. This game only took me about 5 hours to complete, which is a decent length, especially since I only paid $5 for the game itself, and I enjoyed my entire time playing through the story and all the Easter eggs I found as I played through. The overall experience was really well put together. It's an 8 out of 10 indie JRPG in my opinion, and I highly recommend that you give it a try. If you've got a few dollars in your Steam account and it's not doing anything, may as well go for it. Now thanks for watching. If you got this far, why not hit that subscription button. Now real life commitments are taking up a lot of my time, so I'm not certain when the next video will come out. I'll be posting updates on my Twitter. If you haven't followed it, you should. It's @FairIncomeDave. And my Discord, well, that link will be in the description. Cheers to Crankage Games for making this game, sharing it for everyone to see, and also supporting those that support him. You can follow him on Twitter @CrankageGames, and you can support him by either buying his games, donating to his Patreon, or just being a good guy and sharing what you know about his games. Anyway, have a good one fellas, see you next video.